All right, so here's the poem written by Anne Sexton. If you remember, Anne Sexton, she had a very complicated life. She died a while ago, but she was a poet. And the poetry that she wrote came out of her mental illness as an outlet for her own recovery and healing. There is joy in all. In the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed that I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry from the kettle that heats my coffee each morning, in the spoon and in the chair that cry, "Hello there, Anne," each morning, in the Godhead of the table that I set my silver plate cup upon, that I set my silver plate cup upon each morning. All this is God, right here in my pea green house each morning. And I mean, though, often forget to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing, as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my palm, for this is God, this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young.
It's a good statement.
And she did die young. So so my self-awakening question under A this morning, we're going to talk more about that, but where is your joy? I know I'm springing this on you, and I appreciate that. So I'm not expecting a thesis, just a mission statement of a kind. Where do you find your joy? Where is your joy this morning? Doesn't have to be life. Kate, where's your joy?
Where's my joy?
Where is your joy?
Right this minute.
Right this
My joy right this minute is being right here and seeing the people that I miss so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Anne, where is your joy?
Well, I was saying to Sharon a minute ago, there's joy in the late fall because you go through a period of saying there's not going to be any fall this year, there's no color, we missed it. And then all of a sudden you drive out one day and say, wow, we did have fall. And so that's what I've been thinking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Sharon.
In photography, and my spouse, and in this church.
Evan, where's your joy this morning?
In a busy noise morning when everything gets very quiet and there is a sound of silence. There is a vibration, something it's a sound of silence.
You can answer the question.
Huh?
You can answer the question.
Yeah, my joy is in being able to be present with you all this morning.
Oh, I got so many answers, but I'm on first thing that popped into my mind. It's not just a right hand thing, but I get a lot of joy out of seeing people fulfill their potential.
Nice. Fred, this morning joy.
I was relating to the late fall joy, very much so. And I get up early in the morning and I light my little fireplace and I go sit on the couch and I've got this big bank of windows that looks out over everything. And boy, you're really enjoying late fall with that.
Yeah.
It's just a nice way to wake up.
You do have a nice view there.
Ginger.
Well, my joy today, I woke up and I said, oh, happy, thankful Thursday morning. Better say what I'm thankful for and tell God so he'll keep it going.
Share that joy. Yes, ma'am. And Lida.
The two things that made me smile this morning was one inspiring quote I got, which said, "A hunch is creativity trying to tell you something." So make me start thinking about the hunches we have. And the second one was a cute little bear that I thought was in the perfect Halloween costume today that I had to stop and take a picture, even though I was kind of a little bit late. It's just the beauty of this countryside and the animals and everything we see.
Great.
Yeah, we live in a good place.
So we often have to dig deep to find joy. There are times we have to dig deep to find joy. And I hope in this work that we're doing together, in this reading and studying that we're doing together, it is about reaching down. This is really, I'm looking forward to pull it back, which is at the end of chapter 4. This process of, which I'm gonna mispronounce, how do you say, Sankufa, that we look back, we look down, we look in to go forward. We don't ignore it, we don't bypass it, we don't put our blinders on, we look back to go forward. And I think sometimes finding joy, knowing what I know about Anne Sexton, this is such an ironic, in some ways, poem for her to write, because her whole life was about trying to find that joy, to recover it. You know, she killed herself by asphyxiation, and she tried, that was just the one that made it. She had tried, I don't know, countless times. All the ways one does it, even the ones that aren't admitted, right? Drinking, drug use, bad behavior, all the ways that people can try to kill themselves about it. But it takes longer times. But anyway, we always are looking back to find our story. And so we're setting up the scene, right? Last week, we finally got around to setting up our covenant, where we talked together about which of those things we thought were important. This is what my recollections were and what I had marked. So if I'm wrong or you feel like something was left out, I didn't write down the full description that you find in a field guide, the list of what principles you could use to organize yourselves. So maybe we could just start with Lida. Lida, you could read 1, Ginger, you could read 2.
And we don't have our field guide with us.
No, it's all right, it's on the handout for today.
I was the third and a little slow this morning. Okay.
That was a good way to try to get out of it.
My handout's buried under this stuff. I'm a little slow this morning.
And I love paper.
Be fully present, extend welcome, and presume we are welcomed.
We come as equals.
We stay curious about each other.
Slow down to think and reflect.
Author our own story.
No fixing.
Turn judgment to wonder.
Practice confidentiality.
Yes. So again, this morning, I would ask that we agree to these principles as best we can. We are all a work in progress. We all fall short of the glory of God and often guiding principles, but they're there. And they're to help us create safe space. Because you may be saying, so what, who cares? It's a Thursday morning class. Get on with it, girl. I get it. But I try to do that to create a place where you feel like you can author your own story. And what do we need for that is that we need to feel safe. And we acknowledge we need safe space to ask, the A in our acronym, to ask self-awakening questions, right? And this is work from another source, but basically says the same thing it says in all those chapters, 3 and 4, okay? So self-awakening questions, or we can look at page, if you have your book, you can look at page 72 through 74, which try to do their best to,
This is in chapter
3.
3 still,
Yes, sir.
because I'm on.
It's at the top, it's called employing a muse. If that helps you center yourself on your Kindle.
72?
Yes.
72 at the top of or 70.
70 is where
Sorry.
70. Okay, gotcha now.
Sorry, it should be 72. Discerning truly awakening questions. I'll try to start over. Can we go to page 72?
Yes.
Discerning truly self-awakening questions.
Yes,
Perfect.
okay.
It's like singing the wrong hymn.
Did you find it yet?
It was
Herb?
a good tune.
Now. You don't see it, but chapter 3.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Asking self-awakening questions.
Yes.
This is the chapter, not,
It's closer to the beginning of the chapter than it is to the end, but well, it's kind of halfway in the middle. Kind of in the middle.
Well,
is it
Do you see some text that say, who am I? Why am I here? This It's easy to spot that kind of, because it's small, short paragraphs.
Right. We
Oh,
develop.
I'm in the wrong book.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm
Well,
on,
we're gonna let you find your
I'm
way.
on Sharon's book. I've been doing both classes.
What else you been reading there?
I've been reading a lot lately.
We'll find you in verse 3.
Yeah,
Hold on a minute. Let me get-
okay.
All right, this is another way. There's another way of reading this. Read the right book.
Yeah. Just tell me what your thoughts were about that section of the book. That's what's most important to me. Like, what questions do you have? What was your learning? What surprised you? What challenged you?
How does it feel to be a problem?
Oh, goodness.
That's a big one.
Speak a little louder, I can't hear you.
How does it feel to be a problem? That one caught me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was a boomerang. It's someone else's problem, not my problem. Problem.
So it involves, the word he uses is investigation,
Yeah,
right? It involves some investigation. When do I feel that? How do I feel that? Is it with certain people? Is it around certain topics? Is it always my story? Is
yeah.
that how I always feel? Is it limited to something? That's a self-aware, because you're learning something,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I know everyone thinks maybe the word woke was just invented 5 years ago
No.
to describe a way of looking at race, right? Or our participation in prejudicial behavior. No. Being awake to yourself goes all the way back, and we find it in scripture, we find it in literature. It's a concept of saying, if I'm awake, what does it mean? Well, I'm not asleep. What does Jesus say? Be awake. Every Advent starts with the same call, be awake.
Being awake sounds a lot better than I'm in the woke culture.
Does it? Well, I think you might need to ask a self-awakening question about that.
Okay.
Right, so see why that is for you. You know, what is that about that makes you,
Maybe I'd rather hide myself.
okay, maybe so. That's a very woke answer, actually.
And what she was on how does it feel? How do I feel to be a problem? It's the only one that doesn't say I or me.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It takes away the feeling, in my opinion. That's
Is that a good?
someone else's it. But I guess there's a purpose for it. I just haven't figured it out yet.
It's interesting, it's not an I statement.
That's right.
Those 5 hardest questions in life.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've talked to you about Gregory Ellison, Dr. Ellison, and his work around fearless dialogues. And so there's a particular reason that he chooses those 5 questions.
Mhm.
And that's when he's looking at the option of being, looking at being seen. How do we see people? Because if we don't see them, we don't have to deal with it. Our feelings about them, the situation that's being created, any of that. We just don't see them. I don't care if it's, I'm not trying to pick controversial subjects, y'all, but you know, the guy on the side of the road, the lady with the baby, the blah, 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 whatever it is we've chosen not to see this morning. You all talked about seeing things that you wanted to see. Fall, pink, changing colors, something in the air, something you smelled, something you heard, something you didn't hear, right? Those are all ways we're choosing to participate. And there's also ways we choose not to participate. And the self-awakening questions are one of the ways we get at what is it that I'm not seeing? Because we can acknowledge what we see. What am I not seeing? And it's not about being a downer, y'all. It's about entering fully awake. It's just, that's it. Everyone can choose how they want to embrace the world. I can't, you know, I'm not coming into your bedroom in the morning and saying, it's shame on y'all. It's not what I'm not about that. I'm about the possibility for each of you to do something different than you have been doing. That's all. And it doesn't mean it will work or it won't work. It's not even that. It's that I feel like it's like a rubber band, and I know you've heard this expression many times. You know, once stretched, the rubber band never returns to its same size. It's always a little different. Now, the self-awakening question around that might be, how? How am I gonna be different? How am I gonna be transformed? What are the possibilities for this? So it's not an opportunity for shaming. So that's how we know the difference in the question asking. Now, how you receive that and what kind of personal work you have to do, I don't know anything about that. So if your response is to feel shame, that's a different question, perhaps for a spiritual director or a therapist or someone you feel close to. What do we call it? Like an anam cara, right? A spiritual friend, someone that you share with like that. That could be your spouse or anyone else in your life. But it's always good for us to have that kind of person we can do that with. But that's, where does it lie? Otherwise, where does it go? It becomes that sort of self-circulating, eternal navel-gazing thing that we do to ourselves. You know, we get trapped in that circle of shame and doubt and fear. And the opportunity for us is to turn the cycle around. Still spinning, but maybe spinning outward into life, into giving, into the world. Is that okay? So self-awakening questions, back to that. So at the bottom of page 73 under the heading, letting questions breathe. Tell a story about why you do what you do, why you love what you love. Tell a story about a time when someone noticed your gifts and you knew it. Tell a story about a time you could not hear the sound of the genuine in you. Remember, this is a reference to Howard Thurman's speech, The Sound of the Genuine.
Mhm.
And often our lives are centered in pleasing other people. That's just the way, you know, I mean, if you please your parents, because they're human beings, I'm a parent. I liked it when my children pleased me. It was a lot easier to love them in some way when they made me happy. I am not going to argue with that. It's not right. I'm supposed to be all about unconditional love and acceptance and blah, blah, blah. Somewhere down the line, I get there. I don't ever start there, friends. I don't ever start there. But so that's when I could not. And so what do I do to myself about that? Where in my attempts to please other people or fit in, that's a biggie for me. Fit in, be accepted. Where have I lost the sound of the genuine in me? And that's just part of growing up. That's just part of being who we are. That's a hard question, isn't it?
Mm.
I can say for myself, the times that I have not would have been about where I, chose a college major to please my father. Not because I did not know what my genuine was, right? And I was 40, I think, before I knew the sound of the genuine. I actually was 40 because I was, I told you all many of this. I broke my neck in a car accident and I had to be still and silent a lot of the time for 6 months with an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. And long spans of daytime.
That was tough.
You have a lot of time to reflect. I had a lot of time. I also was in communication with people who were helping me navigate. What did that mean? Because someone had asked me, what's your favorite meal? We could make it for you. And I was like, whatever anybody else wants. What color do you like?
Nails.
Whatever anybody else likes. What do you, how do you spend your time? Doing what other people would want me to do. And when you have that much time, not everybody has that glorious, to me, it was a glorious 6 months after I got over pain and knowing I wasn't going to die and knowing I didn't have to have surgery and a bunch of different things that go into that. And when I was off all the medication. So I had some clear thinking, and I had a beautiful mother, right, who was willing to spend a lot of time doing the things that moms do. And I had a church community and a PTA community and a neighborhood community who filled in all the spots that one needed to have filled in. So anyway, I was able in that space to sort of reclaim that for myself. Ask my own self-awakening questions, even as ridiculous as, what is my favorite meal? What is my favorite color? What do I enjoy doing? Now, anybody who's had little kids knows that there aren't a lot of times to ask self-awakening questions. It's you gotta wash, you gotta cook, you gotta get in there, you gotta do the things. I get that. But you gotta get to work, so. What I'd like to do is go back to our handout, which also gives you some other prompts of some things about self-awakening questions in an easy space to see. You see that there? Personal values, your purpose, self-care.
In both, I got it.
You got that, right? Those are all self-awakening questions. I'm not gonna get through these in whatever time I'm teaching this or whatever. Listen, I guess it's your work, or it's not, or you can just, use it to line your birdcage, whatever works. So I do go on to say, what are our questions? And then to give a little scriptural reference. Jesus asked his friends and followers an important question. What do you want me to do for you? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was just a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes he would do what they asked, but the question always invited them to interrogate their lives and their deepest desire. When we say Jesus was looking for followers, he was, but he wasn't looking for sheep in the sense we think of sheep, or maybe he wasn't looking for blind followers. Remember, think about the stories we've heard over the last several weeks in the gospel. He wasn't looking for blind followers, he healed blind followers.
Yeah, they did.
Right? He's looking for people who are awoke, and are seeing each other. That's what Jesus is looking for. Yeah, there are tenets about how we behave, we all know all that. Good questions asked by a caring listener can wake us up to our own lives. So we have a responsibility to each other to ask these questions. Maybe it doesn't work at coffee hour, okay? I'm aware, standing in line at communion, probably not the best place. There are opportunities where our lives bump up against other people where we do have opportunities. Kevin, I'm putting you on the spot. I remember sitting with you in the Inquirer's class. You were presenting about Conkle Road. What was my self-awakening question I asked you?
How does that impact you spiritually, Kevin? Mr. I have all the answers had no answer. I hadn't put it there. At first it was a gotcha, and it was like, no, it's an awareness. So, yeah, you're not at MasterCard anymore. This is where I had to get rid of all my spiritual thinking. Respect was there, but there's lots of spiritual ways and lots of people with different religions.
And there's the corporate way.
And so I pushed it all out. So it kind of reawakened that spiritual thought. Why am I doing this spiritually? Yeah, it wasn't a gotcha. It was an awareness question. And it was
I'm
good.
glad you received it. After I left, I was like, I wasn't trying to catch you in anything.
No.
I was curious. I'm employing one of those principles that we talked about. Be curious about another person. My question came from being curious because there was a beautiful slideshow. There was an amazing outcome. There was, all that.
That was tell a story about a time when you could not hear the sound of the genuine in you. That was my response. That would have been that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoops. Yeah.
Wow.
Fair point.
Yeah. Yeah, so oftentimes we can think maybe something and I don't know anyone's heart. I know my intention in asking you that was my own curiosity.
Genuine. It was genuine.
Yeah.
I was not in the spot of genuine to receive it in.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
God did the work.
It took about 6 months.
That's right. So what does that mean? That curiosity piece is big here. What am I curious about? What am I curious about you? Why do you do that work? What is it? What hooked you into that work? I can ask the same thing to Sharon, right? What hooked you? What hooks you? What continues to hook you about doing 12-step work and its connection to spirituality? Because that's a gift,
Right. I
right?
mean, it just, yeah, I mean, it just feels so right. I don't have another way to say it.
Mhm.
I feel it.
So each of you have that about something, or 15 things, or 150 things. I don't know, right? But until you get to the self-awakening question part, maybe you won't. Because I, like Kevin, often hear things that people say to me, questions they ask, as accusations of someone trying to catch me. You know, that they'll see I'm a fake priest. They'll see that I'm a fake. They'll know that I'm just playing at this, right? I'm not just playing at it, and I'm not a fake, but that have been for my life a whole lot of how I saw myself as someone who had to convince others that I was good enough for something, right? I paid a lot of therapists a lot of money
To say that.
to help me be able to talk about it, but, or to even recognize it. And it was through their self-awakening questions. Oftentimes good therapists can do that for us. They prompt us into looking inward. That's what their job is. I mean, sometimes it's been convoluted to say they're a diagnostician and they're gonna give you a pathology report when you leave. You know, you're on the scale, you're a blank, you're a blank, you're a blank. That's not what most good therapy doesn't do that. They're not there to name your, disease. Oftentimes they might say, I'm wondering if you're depressed and medication might help. That's a different story, but they should continue. That's why you never, I hope, take medication apart from having someone in which you're in conversation with, right? They have to you have to have help. Because if you didn't need help getting at those self-awakening, you wouldn't need a therapist. I mean, let's face it, they go hand in hand, they go together. So we're aware of this practice. Spiritual directors should do the same thing. And I'm not sure we do, but we should do the same thing. And ask self-awakening questions to wake us up. And I believe that I am always asleep in some particular way. There is something I'm not looking at, something I'm not up to looking at, or know how to look at, or even know I need to know how to look at it. And, so there's a great possibility there. And when we think about the spiritual life, isn't it that way? I mean, we have self-awakening moments, but Jesus had self-awakening. Let's think about, what about the transfiguration, right? Remember, Jesus goes to the mountain and he sees Elijah and Moses and has this experience and the disciples. That's a self-awakening moment for the disciples and perhaps for Christ. I can't bring you on your theology, you might disagree with me, but that's a self-awakening moment. But he doesn't do, right, what Peter says. What does Peter want to do? Build a booth. Come on, man. We got to stay here. This is a great moment and I'm staying right here. Okay. Maybe you let them hang out for 10 minutes or an hour or maybe 2 days. I don't know how long they stayed. Eventually. And I think if this is true in all the texts that recount the transfiguration, they made their way to Jerusalem. To a particular place that means a particular thing, right? Like that, they didn't know they were going to the place where this whole thing was going to come to a head. Whatever was going on or whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen in Jerusalem. They knew that. So they didn't say, we went to Mary Magdalene's and had lunch. Didn't do that. Oh, maybe they did, but it was, they didn't say, we went to Capernaum and hung out by the sea for a couple of days. We went to the Dead Sea and had a spa day. No, they made their way to Jerusalem. Okay. Oh, I could just go on, couldn't I? All right. Let's turn the page over. So I want to do an exercise.
Hey, Joe.
We're going to skip through I mean, I've covered some of this, right? Ask how, what, why questions. Invite images or metaphors because they can open up. This is easy for Sharon. Sharon will have a metaphor for all of you. She's always got a picture in her mind of something. And some people think that way. I get that.
In EFM, that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Everything is metaphors. Yeah.
right, exactly.
That's not how I think.
But yeah, and some people don't because that's been basically trained out of us.
Yeah,
For some of us.
you got right brain and left brain type people, so some people are more visual and some people are more,
That's why we need each other, though,
yeah.
right? Like, I can often need Sharon's analogies, but I also might need Kevin's, like, this is how we're gonna get it done.
Yeah.
This is how we're counting homeless people today. That's how we're doing it. So I need both kinds in my life because I love that. So we need to ask questions that clarify feelings, images, passions, concerns. Oh, you get this, right? When I'm talking, this is values. And then we're gonna be looking for patterns. This isn't happening in a vacuum, you all. This happened maybe in the vacuum of your life, but I believe in patterns. Silences can also be important in this. Who said something about intuition this morning? You were reading that thing about hunches, which I think is intuition, right?
It is.
So trust your intuition. I don't mean to be cruel. I mean, trust your intuition, which would be also your curiosity. As you listen deeply to the storyteller, they're telling you a story. Allow your questions to emerge from a place where your head and heart are opened up to the presence of the Holy. We do this in this whole context.
How do you differentiate intuition
Intuition.
and discernment?
I don't know how you all might answer that. Intuition and
To
discernment.
me, discernment is trying to listen, whereas intuition is something that you have inside you. And so you listen in discernment, you listen from God, what is right, whatever you're discerning about. Intuition is using what you already have inside you to. So that to me is kind of a.
So it might just be a way to say, how are you listening to what? I mean, listening interiorly to go to what you're saying. So intuition is listening to something that's arising from within you, perhaps. I think discernment can also include intuition and can be, what are others
Well,
saying?
I guess
right?
that's a tool that you would
Right.
have to help you listen for the truth.
Yeah. Anyone else come up for you? I think they're related. I think they're part of it. I think good discernment would include, what is my intuition saying? You know, what is my best self telling me? What is,
It sounded like from what you said, or it's almost post intuition. The discernment is post intuition.
or includes it, and at least includes it. Then, right,
Is
that's,
intuition, what is the difference in intuition and reason? Because reason seems like another tool that you have in
To
discernment.
me, intuition comes in like a,
Yeah.
you know, and the other's a little more work. It's me thinking it through.
what would some people also call it? Gut feelings? We use that word sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's my gut telling me?
Yeah,
Is that the same thing as intuition? You know,
maybe.
how you use the word is gonna be how it is, but, I think that gut feeling is a part of that. All right. Thank you, Sharon, for your question. What are some questions we might ask that could help someone go deeper with their story? Now, that's an open-ended question for us because that's part of the exercise I'm about to lead you through. Okay, that I'm gonna ask you to participate in. You're gonna listen to someone tell a time that their gift was recognized.
Okay, what was recognized?
When
What was,
their gift
oh,
was
sorry.
recognized. Someone recognized your gift, right? That's what you're gonna tell a story about. 2 minutes. And then your part as the listener not the storyteller in that particular instance, the listener would be to ask a self-awakening question. Okay? So you can't decide now what the question is because you hadn't heard the person's story. Okay? You don't know what they're gonna tell you about what you might be curious about, what might be wondering about, what might be something. Does that make sense so far? This is like in 2-minute increments. Kate,
Uh,
I'm trying to figure out how we do this, but let me just continue with the instructions and maybe God will send me a balloon or something. that I know
Maybe
to do.
your intuition will tell you.
Maybe, yeah, right. So does that make sense about the process? Process is I'm gonna pair you up. One person's gonna be A, one person's gonna be B. A tells the story about one time your gift was recognized. Here, it could be in second grade or it could have been yesterday. It doesn't matter. B listens, does not, just listens. Then B, after taking some silence, you don't have to have the question. As soon as they finish telling the story, I'll give you 2 minutes to formulate your question for them to answer. They'll have 2 minutes to answer. Might not take the whole time. Then we'll switch. Right? Everyone will get a chance to tell a story about a time their gift was recognized, and everyone will have a chance to ask a self-awakening question. So it's not a test, y'all. We're practicing together. Hopefully we've created a safe space to do that. I'm not, what am I trying to say? I'm not, if you don't, that's not like you failed or I failed. It's just, we're just not there yet. So we can talk about how terrible the class is, whatever. I don't, I'm not going to be
When you
listening.
say a gift that's recognized,
Somebody else says to you, Irv, you are so good at finance.
but I mean, I'm trying to get, is this sort of a mainstream thing or kind of something that maybe somebody wouldn't know?
It doesn't
I mean,
matter.
we've all been
You're
through
right.
life and we've all experienced,
I hope so.
I mean, we've all had gifts that have been recognized
I
a
hope so.
lot, so.
But sometimes we can't articulate them. Frank, I'll just go back to what Fred said last week. I know I have a story, but I'm not sure what it is. Okay? So it may be the same thing about gifts. I know I have gifts. I'm just not, maybe I don't know what they are. So if this forces you to sort of say, maybe you say that, and then someone could ask you a self-awakening question. Right? That might open that up. Yes.
The book, I
Yes.
thought, had a really, one sentence on page 67. It reads, trust what comes up. There's no need to censor yourself to try to create a neatly packaged story. Just go where your heart leads you. And your partner will abide by your covenants, or our covenants. We'll remember that your story belongs to you and will hold it in confidence. So it's just, you just block. There it is. It's not, okay, let me polish this so it looks cool who I am.
Right?
That's what I read into
That's
it.
exactly right. And the reason that this
There it
whole
is.
teaching is, it's couched in people's stories. You notice that? It's not the how-to, it's not the 1, 2, 3. Yes, there are steps or suggestions or whatever. But that comes from an experience that author had leading a group of college students through a vocational exercise. Right? So all of the material that you find in this book or in the field guide or whatever is all because it was a laboratory, So we're just, I feel like we're just joining with people who've already done this work. We're entering into their laboratory and trying to get some of that experience for ourselves. And I was saying to Rob yesterday, it's not like I don't think y'all haven't had a hell of a lot of leadership stuff. That's not, I'm hoping what you see is, in the leadership I already own, I see how this is part of it. I see how it could be part of it. I see how it, that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to come in and say you've been doing it all wrong or, whatever.
I don't
It's
care.
just, it's like, this is just, hopefully this just is an annex, to use some of Sharon's great metaphors. This is just an annex to a building that you've been building since the day you were born. Now, the annex could be outside or it could be inside. My hope is that the annex is inside that building, right? Like, you're not, or if you have to burn it down, okay, we'll start over. But, I hope it's intended to be an annex there. okay? Now, does anybody have any creative thinking of how we could include, Kate in this experience?
Or with Kate,
Caleb just listened.
I know,
like I said, with Kate, one of us could call Kate and we could do it all over the phone. That person could go in the other room and then.
No, it's okay.
no, it's not okay, you're gonna participate, I love that idea. Lyda, will you be Kate's partner?
Yes. I
Thank
gotta get
you.
Kate's phone number though. I don't have it on my phone.
Kate, give her your phone number.
Seriously? Okay, what is it? 248
Never
Two-
mind it.
248.
212 3632.
It's the wrong number, Kate.
Ask for Kate.
That's not the wrong number.
I'm just teasing her.
I'll 248-212-3632.
248 212. Yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you, so mute yourself, Kate.
What?
Mute yourself on the,
Mute yourself, not on your phone,
on your
tablet.
You'll
on
get
your
a-
tablet that you're.
You'll get an echo otherwise.
and you don't want us to hear, here's the other thing, only Lyda's gonna hear what you say. I'm not gonna be.
Or get up and go into walk away to another room.
Either way.
Just mute her.
I will be
It's
reading.
really difficult because I'm not even sure what's happening. Okay.
Mute your iPad.
Yeah.
I'm only using it to see you. That's
Well,
how.
Mute is sound.
That's okay, you
You
can do
just need
that.
to hear Lyda. You
Just
don't need
mute
to
it.
see
Take
anything.
the audio off. I'll take your audio.
I can mute you from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Don't make us do
muting is
that.
just,
Good, no.
muting is just so we cannot hear you,
I mean-
and you can hear us.
You just focus on the phone call with Lyda.
Yeah, Lyda, you know what the instructions are, because you might have to review them.
She's gonna mute you
Yeah.
from here.
A gift, you're talking about a gift you've been told about. And then and then it was 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, I asked a question. If she
Okay.
told me I asked
You
a
can just
question,
mute the
right?
room. The whole thing, everything.
Yeah,
Oh, she's muted. Never-
I did.
never mind.
Okay.
You got it.
We'll unmute you in a little bit. We can't hear you now,
all
Kate.
right, Fred, I want you and Ginger, Irv and Kevin. Is it okay to do it this way, y'all? Just
Yeah.
wanna-
No, you need to repair. This is when I have to go because my time is up.
You can.
All right.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Sorry,
okay,
I have to always run back.
You're still six. You're just gonna be a participant.
yeah. All right, I'll work with Ginger, okay? Ginger, you and I?
All right.
Okay, and so everything should stay the same.
Those 2 minutes, and then
You can go, yeah, all right, here it is, remember, I'll go over it one more time. You decide who's A and who's B. Who's telling their story first?
A or B.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, that's the first thing. All right, Ann, you're gonna go first. You're gonna be A.
Okay.
A,
Herb's gonna listen
B, yeah,
first,
right.
and then I'm gonna speak
But,
first.
but Irv will have to ask a self-awakening question.
after he listens for 2 minutes.
Yes. Okay? I'll be the timekeeper.
All right.
I'll
Herb, I'll come
listen
your
about it for you.
Ginger?
Excellent.
And you all go, like, actually, Ginger and I'll stay in this room if the rest of you would go. That would be easy.
Okay.
What are we supposed to do?
If we're all the way over here, does it matter?
Yes, it matters. There's lots of space in this building.
Okay, so what are we doing?
So you all might have to do your own timing, because you won't be able to hear me when you. So I'm gonna tell you a story about a time someone recognized a gift. Okay?
Okay.
Hello. Wait, so far she's successful.
All right. When I was 43, I was leading a workshop because my boss asked me to design something that would fit in with a Lenten program we were doing, right? You've been to many of those, I'm sure, like a Saturday morning situation. And mine was, he wanted me to teach on discernment. I barely knew what that word meant. I had no idea why he wanted me to do it. So I read some stuff, right? And I wrote down some stuff and I parroted what I wrote down. And after I did that, someone who was in the class, who I really, she could have taught the class, right? She's like a therapist / spiritual director.
but also a lovely human being, came up to me and said, that was so thoughtfully presented. I really think you have a gift for leading adults through processes. And I thought, no, I don't. I'd worked with children all my life. I taught Sunday school, I was a Christian ed director. At that point, I was a Christian ed director. I had designed some stuff for adults, but mostly always for children and youth. So that's the first time I'd ever had anyone say that there was a possibility that I could do something different. And of course, you know, that led to other things, of course, because then I had my own discernment, like call to the priesthood, like how would I recognize those gifts? So that's the time. Her name was Cece, recognized something, and she had the courage to speak it too. So I'm going to take a couple minutes of silence, and then you can ask me practice self-awakening question about something you're curious about.
So once you heard her tell you your gift, did you recognize that gift within yourself?
No, but I heard her, and then that led to other opportunities. You know, like someone after that had a workshop on something, and I thought, I've never been interested in that before. Maybe I should go.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how to ask some questions to my spiritual director. I had a spiritual director about that, about, you know, a gift. Someone said they noticed in me, and why wasn't I didn't notice it, and what did that mean? So it started on a process. And I was never comfortable with the word gift. I guess I should have included that. Like, you know, like I had jobs I was good at. There was things I thought God
But
wanted
you
me
never
to
called it
do.
a gift.
No, but I never,
Understand? I've never called it a gift either.
right? Right.
Okay, what am I supposed to tell you?
A time someone recognized a gift.
And me?
That's what you're supposed to tell me a story about that.
Well, yeah. I had someone tell me at a retreat that I needed to do some more deep thinking because I was arrogant and conceited. I was 13 years old, a sophomore in high school.
Well, that's not a gift, is it?
I had to go look up the word and see what it meant.
Right. Let's see if we can think of a time.
That's not something. The next week, the nun told me that I had to give the talk at the oratorical contest. And I said, I think I'm gonna be in the hospital that week. I don't think I can do that. She told me the next day, I know you lied. You are going to make that talk. And I did. It was a diocesan contest and I won. Said, see, you can do that. You can speak in front of other people. You're not afraid of that group out there. No, I'm not. So I guess that was a gift.
Yeah, but who was that asked you and then?
No, the Catholic school.
Yeah,
Was.
you remember her?
That's okay, that's good. And that was probably part of the story that made me know I needed to go to the convent that God was calling me to. Go there and study and teach and do his work.
Do you remember the topic that you spoke on?
If I can say, I remember what it was, but I know, well, I had to write the speech. And of course, then I had to go and get it approved and make the proper changes. But they were pleased, and so that pleased me.
And it put you on a path.
Yes, it did. And of course, my mother came and got me out of the convent before I was 18 and could say no. I told every mother, I don't understand. I just know God was calling me to do this. And her response was, many are called, but few are chosen. I responded, ouch. But then, after that, I'm home and I met Jack on a blind date. And we dated for a while and I had lots of thoughts about I was planning to go back to the convent.
When you turned 18?
Well, my mother told me I had to stay home a year, and then she wouldn't fuss. So, before the year was up, Jack and I decided to get married. And I had lots of questions within me. How can I do that? He is not Catholic and really doesn't have any inclination to church of any kind. Well, I guess Reverend Mother was right. I really wasn't chosen to be at the convent. So I choose how to live this life. And I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes,
And
you did.
I had to choose my first 3 children were baptized in the Catholic Church. Jack had no objection. But in the middle of that time, he said, I'm going to listen to the Baptist preacher, and then I'm going to go to Sunday school. You go to early mass, and I'll watch the kids, and then we can do that. And then I decided, since we were going to be married, we ought to worship in the same place. I had never put my foot inside any of the church for the Catholic Church. I had no idea what to expect from anybody. I told him I was going to come and listen to Sunday school class and all that. And we had the Lord's Supper, and I was horrified by it. The next day to Dr. Swilly and told him I didn't want to be rude, but that was not anything like a Holy Communion. That was just sacrilegious. It was just too much chit chat. It was the wafer, the grape juice went down the road. And he told me I was trying to go from one end of the broomstick to the other, which was a good explanation. And go across the street to St. Philip's to the Episcopal Church. I think you'll find a happy medium. Well, we did. They were starting an inquirer's class. Jack and I both went to that. And I said, I think I can make the change. He said, I think I can too. And of course, he had not really had any kind of business of going to church or what it meant in his growing up time. So that was real good. He got a lot out of it. And then confirmation came. And then we had Joe, and he was baptized in the Episcopal Church. And and we stayed in the Episcopal Church. And he did, real good. I think the one thing that really pulled Jack in was we had a group that started going to Cursillo. Back in those days, this diocese had Cursillo. And they asked me to go every time, and I said, I'd love to, but I can't go until Jack goes. I know if I go and I'll come back and tell him about it, he won't believe anything. He's got to see it himself. So finally he said, I told him yes, because I know you won't go without me. And so let's go together. So we did, and it was good. And in the middle of it, when it was time to admit that Jesus had died for our sins and he offered him salvation, Jack was on his hands and knees, and tears what went up. God touched him. And that was good. Wonderful. And since then, my granddaughter told me one time, you need to be needed. I said, does that mean? Well, just that. Lord, I thought that you were arrogant for a long time now. Pray, please, God, get Satan away from me. I don't want to be arrogant. That's awful. And now I need to be needed.
It's kind of in the same,
Same
it's in
thing.
the same boat, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't like that.
You know, that's the opposite of what a gift is.
No.
So that's, I mean, maybe, you know, I feel like when Paul said, I've been given this thorn, right, you know, this infliction, and it's,
I
you know,
think it's
that might be
that's
yours.
my thorn.
That might be.
But
Because
how
it's a
can I
struggle.
get rid of it?
No, I think it's
I'm
always a way
praying.
to bring you back to Jesus. I think, you know, you might never get rid of it. You might never, but it's a way to always, when that happens, it's a pastor prayer. I know that sounds sort of trite and maybe
Now, in
not really
Jesus, in
helpful.
your holy name, I'm asking you be with me to rebuke Satan and tell him to get away from me. I don't want to be that.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And I'm glad for that sister who saw that gift in you to speak in front of other people. To share something of yourself with them. For someone who didn't want to have to talk, look at Kate go.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, I'm gonna have to get this group back together,
Okay.
I think. Because it's already 11, 2 minutes to 11.
Oh, good.
We all got places to be and things.
But this is a good group.
It is a good group, Ginger. Okay, beloved. You got a minute. I said for someone who didn't want to talk, she sure is doing a bunch of it. I'm gonna go get a drink of water. Ginger, do you want anything?
Ooh, little water, be good.
You want some water, baby? Here. You're welcome. And we're gonna have to break it up, but I'm just saying. I've not talked to
I'm thinking about
that. But anyway,
I would see her though behind the lectern in the county.
Okay,
And I
so,
could see an infant needing a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old,
okay, so I'm gonna
37.
have, when Alex gets back, I'm gonna have her unmute.
And they would ask me a question.
And I can hear you, you can hear it.
That's
13-year-old.
Yeah.
She's actually, I'm gonna hear right now. For some reason, it's up to me.
It'll be fine once they do.
Really,
Hey, Jen. Hey, Sharon. You doing okay? I think so. How you
We're
feeling?
gonna walk her through this technology, right? We're gonna
Sore,
unmute it.
but nothing broken, that's good.
yeah.
And I think I see a walker behind you.
Yes, I am.
I wouldn't let her out of my car today until the walker was at the curb. I can just get up these steps. Not under my watch. You're not unmuted
It's
yet.
fine.
There-
Trying, I'm hitting every unmute button I can find. Okay,
We
good.
can hear you again. Those
Good,
guys,
you
yeah,
can't hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay.
I don't know the connection, but I don't even know if I know.
All right, we have to tidy this up because it's time. I apologize.
Well, I'm gonna go clap clap these guys.
You do your best.
They're walking around and.
That was very blunt. In here.
The question is, what was it like to ask?
Yeah, maybe so.
I think the hardest part for us was probably coming up with the self-awakening
It was
question.
on Bubba's, some kind of horn or Jacob or something, some kind of horn, he blew it.
Yes.
So the hardest part for you, what was it? You don't have to tell me the content. I just want to know what was the hardest part of the exercise? Listening?
It wasn't hard,
But it's about
for me to listen.
kids that are having trouble.
And I think part of that is because I already had,
Just talking about, very much I gotta tell you.
a view and esteem for Anne that was higher than what she explained. So that somehow made it easier to do. It was, harder for me to talk, because I realized, Allison, I have a whole story to share with you, at some point about me at 13.
You'll have to save that.
I will.
Okay,
hold on.
How about for the rest of you? What was difficult, the most difficult part of the exercise?
Having a good question to ask them
Yes.
when they tell you a really good story and you're like, that's awesome. Now I have to ask you a really good question. To me, that was the hardest part.
Until we need the most practice on. I'd say I need the most practice on learning to do that. I'm trying to talk my high statements.
Well, no, I agree that we all need the most practice. There was somewhere in this book that talked about how we just really want to just talk, underlined it, but I can't find it right now. We just talk back and forth, and we don't. You say something, and it's bantering back and forth, and it's not delving into why you said this or more about what you're saying. It's all about, let me tell you, let me get my side in, let me get your, and so I just like, you really need to know people when you ask more detailed questions and understand why they're talking to you. I remember that from the first day, or, why did they tell me that? And that's a good question to ask.
That's what I thought was the hardest part. Am I asking the right questions? And finally, I said, just forget it, just ask whatever comes to your mind.
Which was fun.
Let's just talk, cause that was like, oh God, I gotta ask the right one.
No, I don't think there's a right question. I think there's one that leads you to do some of your own examination about what the other person said, right? That's what it's about. Or helping the other person explore what they said. I mean, it could be about, maybe it's always about that. But, it's not just about to pass the time. I guess that's how about for you, or what was was there a difficult part, or?
Yeah, the difficult part was getting, Kevin to shut up, so
Oh,
he knows
I-
that I'm kidding. But,
and he said he was gonna talk first. All I could think of was, thank God she didn't put Kevin and I together. Because
That's true.
it would take, we'd have to come back, we have to stay all week.
Let him stop, so.
Yeah.
It was.
I think, I know it's hard, and I do hope it's a safe space for us to do this
Oh, yeah.
and learn
Oh, yeah.
from.
I have to tell you that, because I say this all the time, I always think that a good question's better than a good answer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is that, it was hard because I wanted more time with Irv's story.
Mhm.
but he's so good at pausing, absorbing, listening to what you say, and then coming up with a question that can contain some elements or all of them threaded together already quickly. It was difficult for me not to have the gift that he's got and does so well. And I thought, how does an accountant have this? Because his background is, he's a history major. The passion, history, the story. So he's connecting all those paths. That's, I mean, part of it, he's just a good person, but
Well, knowing your own story, I wonder if there's anybody who thought that knowing my own story is really helping me ask curious questions of someone else.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
In all of our cases.
Right, in all of our cases. So, so anyway, there's a couple of things I've asked you here, but I'll ask you to read that. And why do you think Jesus asks so many questions? For that very same reason. For the very same reason you're asking questions. There was a desire to know. And a desire to involve the listener or the teller, whichever, in that story. It's not something that happened outside of you. It's something that's happening inside of you. And that's, that can be the hardest jump to make.
One of my favorite questions from Jesus is, who do you say I am?
What was it?
Question, who do you say I am? Who said it?
Jesus said that.
Yeah, right.
At Caesarea Philippi. Who do you say that I am?
Who do you say that I am?
Right at the head rivers of the Jordan River. There's just a little bubbly spring. Who do you say that I am? Right at the beginning. I guess there's a lot of metaphors there. Well, somehow, when we ask self-awakening questions, we're going back and fetching something from the back and bringing it to the future. I've included that symbol of a bird, a hen, carrying her egg. So it has the beginning, what will be, and what was. It's all there in that one little image. So it is not taboo to fetch what is at risk of being left behind. I want y'all to think about that question or that expression this week. What is it I was trying to leave behind that perhaps I don't need to? And then I want you to look over the questions on page 107